You will not die with a sword in your hand. Most of them didn't. For every Norseman the poets sang up into the golden halls, 100 more died the quiet way, in a sickbed, in the dark, under the water. No glory, no feast, just a long, cold road, walking down, and something at the end of it that had been waiting a very long time for you to arrive. The Vikings were not afraid of dying. They were afraid of where they would wake up. They gave her the dead nobody else wanted. Her name was Hel, a child of Loki, thrown out of the bright world before she could speak, cast down into the cold to rule over it. The gods looked at her once and could not look again. They say that one half of her was a living woman, and the other half was a corpse. Not a wound, not rot you could bandage, just a body that had already started its long argument with the grave, walking around, giving orders. You did not earn her hall by being wicked. That is the part that frightened them. You earned it simply by dying softly, of fever, of age, of the slow things, the good farmer, the kind grandmother, the child who didn't make it through winter. Down they all went, along a road that ran 9 nights deep, over a bridge roofed in gold that rang like a bell under the feet of the dead, until they reached a gate no living hand had opened. Inside, everything had a name, and every name was a small cruelty. Her hall was called Sleet Cold. Her plate, set before every guest, was called Hunger. The knife beside it was called Famine, and the threshold you stepped across to enter, the last thing your foot would ever touch, was called Stumbling Block. She would not turn you away. That was never the fear. The fear was that she would welcome you, that she was patient, and that she was already setting a place. Some of the dead never made the journey at all. They stayed. The Norse called it the Draugr, the again walker, the corpse that refused to lie down. You buried a man in a mound with his sword and his silver, and you sealed the door, and you told yourself it was over. But the greedy dead do not let go of what is theirs. They sit in the dark of the mound, swelling, turning the blue-black color of a drowned thing, growing heavier and stronger than any living man. And they listen for footsteps overhead. There was one they remembered by name, Glam, a shepherd who died wrong and would not stay buried. He came back the color of bruised meat, big as a felled ox, and he walked the valley at night. The ones who lived described the same thing every time. Not the strength, not the cold, the patience. It was never in a hurry. It knew you had to sleep eventually. When a hero finally fought the thing and won, in the moment before the end, the Draugr looked at him and cursed him. The Draugr's real weapon was never its hands. It was that it could still speak, and that it remembered your name. But the worst death, for a people who lived and died on the water, was the one with no body left to bury at all. They believed the sea had a keeper, a woman named Ran, who walked the seafloor of the cold north with a net in her hands, and she did not fish for cod. When a wave took a man off the deck, it was not the water that drowned him, it was her net, closing. She carried them down to a hall beneath the waves, and there they stayed. They believed that if she received a drowned man well, he would be allowed to come back. Once, to his own funeral feast, and the door would open, and water would run from the floorboards, and a man a week dead would walk in, dripping wet, and take his seat among them, and say nothing, and look at them with the sea still in his eyes. That was the good outcome. That was the mercy. The other men, the ones she did not favor, simply never came home. No grave, no feast, just an empty chair and a cold coast, and the rest of your life spent listening to the tide and wondering whether the thing it was carrying away had your name on it. The Norse made peace with the sword. They never made peace with the quiet death, the bed, the mound, the water. because those were the deaths you could not win. You could only hope to be welcomed gently, and in their world, being welcomed was the most frightening thing of all. But if you think a half-dead queen and a net in the dark were bad, wait until you see what the Greeks did to the dead who cheated. Because in the underworld below the Mediterranean, the punishment wasn't an ending, it was forever. Death Gods, Episode 2, Don't Let the Fire Go Out.